A botanist is cultivating a rare species of plant in a controlled environment and currently has 3,000 of these plants. The populations of these species that the botanist expects to grow next year, represented by N next year, can be estimated from the number of plants this year, represented by N this year, by the equation below. The botanist would like to increase the number of plants that the environment can support so that the population of the species will increase more rapidly. If the botanist's goal is that the number of plants will increase from 3,000 this year to 3,360 next year, how many plants must the modified environment support? Let's look at the formula provided. N next year equals N this year plus 0.2 times N this year times 1 minus N this year over K. So the problem stem provides us that this year's number of plants is at 3,000, so we can plug it into our equation. Instead of N this year, we put down 3,000 in 3 places in the formula. And we're also told that the goal for next year is 3,360. And so we should put that number in place of N next year, since this is the goal for the next year. Once we plug in the numbers, we get 3,360 equals 3,000 plus 0.2 times 3,000 times 1 minus 3,000 divided by K. Let's refer to the question. The problem asks us how many plants must the modified environment support. And I guess provided that K is the only unknown, this is probably what the problem asks us to solve for. So let's go for it. Let's use mathematical manipulation, and we'll start with isolating K on the right-hand side for now. Let's get rid of the addition of 3,000 to the product involving K. And to do that, we subtract 3,000 from both sides, and we cancel it out on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, the result of subtracting 3,000 is 360. So what we get is 360 equals 0.2 times 3,000 equals 600. So 360 equals 600 times. And let's keep the rest in the original form, 1 minus 3,000 over K. At this point, let's also eliminate the times 600 operation. And we do that by dividing by 600, which is neutralizing operation for times 600. We do that on both sides of the equation, eliminating it on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, we get a fraction. We can keep it as a fraction. And what we get is 360 over 600. Just to keep things simple at this stage. And that equals to what we have in the brackets, which is 1 minus 3,000 over K. And at this point, we're very close. We're still working on isolating K. So let's address the addition of 1. And to reverse the addition of 1, let's subtract 1 from both sides. And what we get on the right-hand side is that 1 minus 1 equals 0, so it eliminates on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, we will subtract 1 from 360 over 600. And as we know, 1 is the same as any number divided by itself. So in order for us to operate on fractions, let's replace 1 with 600 over 600. And that would equal to what we have on the right-hand side, minus 3,000 over K. When we perform the operation on the left-hand side, 360 minus 600 in the numerator equals to 240, or minus 240 to be exact. And in the denominator, we have 600. And that equals to negative 3,000 over K. Now, having negative is something that makes things a little less convenient. So let's multiply both sides by -1. And what we get is 240 over 600 equals 3000 over k. We don't like having k in the denominator, so let's multiply both sides by k. This way we can get rid of it on the right-hand side, and it appears on the left-hand side. And at this point, k is multiplied by 240 over 600. And to eliminate this multiplication, we need to flip the fraction and multiply it by 600 over 240. Both sides of the equation, of course. And if we do that, then on the right-hand side, it cancels out. 600 times 240 in the numerator and 240 times 600 in the denominator, it equals to 1. And 1 times k equals k. So as a result, what we have is k equals 3000 times. And since we multiplied both sides by 600 over 240, we keep it on the right-hand side. At this point, we can just pull out our calculator and perform the operations, and our answer would be 7,500 for k. And let's pencil in as our answer. During our calculations, I didn't want to distract too much to simplification, but there was an opportunity a little earlier to do so. When we had this fraction of 360 over 600, we could have simplified it into a much smaller number. And the way we could do that would have been first to divide both numerator and denominator by 10, and we'd get 36 over 60 as a result. And then we should notice that there is still an opportunity to divide by 6 both sides, above and below, and that would have led us to 6 over 10. And with one more opportunity, we would have divided both numerator and denominator by 2, and we would have gotten 3/5 in place of 360 over 600. Both of these fractions are equivalent, but 3/5 is much simpler to work with. So let's see how it would have turned out for us had we done so. Let's pick up our action from the point and replace 360 over 600 with our new fraction of 3/5. So 3/5 equals 1 minus 3000 over k. And we would then want to subtract 1 from both sides to move 1 away from the right-hand side where our k is. And on the left-hand side, the operation of 3/5 minus 1, since in order to add or subtract fractions, we need to bring them to the same denominator, we would have picked 5 over 5 to represent 1. And that would have meant that 3/5 minus 5/5 in place of 1 would equal minus 3000 over k. And 3/5 minus 5/5, we work with numerators. 3 minus 5 equals minus 2. And the denominator is 5, so minus 2/5 equals minus 3000 over k. And then we'd again multiply by minus 1 both sides just to simplify the look. As a result, we'd be facing 2 over 5 equals 3000 over k. And as before, we'd multiply both sides by k to get it out of the denominator, and it would appear in the numerator on the left-hand side. And at this point, we'd have 2/5 on the same side as k. And to neutralize that, we would multiply by the reverse of 2/5, reciprocal. So we flip the fraction and it becomes 5/2. And if we do that, and of course we multiply it on both sides, Then 5 over 2 times 2 over 5 cancels out, because the result would be 5 times 2, 10 in the numerator, and 2 times 5, 10 in the denominator. So 10 over 10 equals 1. 1 times k equals k. So on the right-hand side, we'd have 3,000 times 5 over 2, and k would equal the result of 3,000 times 5 over 2. Using the calculator, we would get the same answer, 7,500. Or we could do it by hand, because 5 over 2 is 2.5. So 3,000 times 2.5, we'd be able to calculate to be 7,500.